Now, it's true that sometimes the things that are making you unhappy are going to take a lot of effort to change. But luckily, no matter where you're stuck or what's going on in your life, it's possible to lift your mood right now. And that is worth doing, don't you think? That's what I'm going to show you. These are simple strategies you can use whenever you're in a bad place, dysregulated, angry, depressed. You can feel it in your body and you're feeling like you just can't pop out of it. Now, sometimes there's no reason for feeling bad. Maybe you're in an emotional flashback, or it's hormones, or you're tired. What I'm teaching you doesn't depend on knowing what's the cause. You don't have to solve that problem, even if you know what it is. It's possible to push your mood up 2 or 3 notches and still be your real self and not lose track of the problems in your life, because at some point you'll want to solve them. And you can get into the habit of feeling better so that you don't have to go through all these steps to getting there every time you want to feel better. It'll be more your natural state, or easier to get there. And that would make life easier, right? The first thing to do is to get up an hour earlier than you normally would. Even though this might leave you a bit tired in the afternoon, it's a good way to reduce the stress that makes mornings such a vulnerable time for overwhelm and discombobulation and depression. When you get up early and you get out of bed, you're freeing yourself from both hurrying to get out of the house, big CPTSD trigger, by the way, and immobilization, where you stay in bed for too long after you wake up, which is like a big open door for depressed emotions. So get up an hour earlier, then get up out of bed. And yeah, you're going to be tired, all right? Tiredness is not an emergency. You can get a hot beverage if you enjoy that. I personally am a coffee person, not everybody is. And then you can get on to the second thing I'm going to recommend to you to feel better, which is to do some writing. Now, some people write in their journals. I teach techniques that help you get your anxious and depressed thoughts out of your head and onto paper. That happens to be very important to me because I often wake up in an emotional flashback or wake up worried about things. So if you want to learn about that technique, there's always a link under my videos. It's called the Daily Practice, and it's right down there in the description section beneath this video. When you can get the fear and resentment out of your head and onto paper, it gives your mind a little vacation. And fear and resentment can't color all your thoughts like they ordinarily would. And don't forget to release those thoughts after you write them, or actually ask your higher power, if you have one, to take them from you, to remove them. These are the thoughts that drive the hamster wheel of doom in your mind. The hamster wheel of doom, the worries, the grudges. And with less of that, you have more mental and emotional fresh air to be yourself and to just have a good day. All right. The third thing that you can do to feel happier and lift your mood is to meditate. Now, I meditate for 20 minutes twice a day. If you can even do 5 minutes, that would be a very positive thing to do. Not everybody feels like they can meditate, but you don't have to worry about doing it well. I don't necessarily mean anything difficult. You don't have to sit a special way. You don't have to have an empty mind or focus on your breath or avoid thoughts. You just rest with your eyes closed, maybe with a mantra. A mantra is a simple word like okay. Just okay, just a very simple, releasing, undemanding word that helps remind you that you're meditating. You can learn a simple meditation in the free course that I mentioned, the Daily Practice. I've got a little tutorial there and some music you can meditate to the first time you do it. A lot of people, I hear them criticize themselves and say, I can't really meditate. I think so much. And that's precisely why we meditate. First, it's natural to think. That's what your mind is for. And having an active mind can be a good thing. But we need to give that mind a rest sometimes, because the dysregulation of complex PTSD, it is in your mind, and it's a brainwave thing, and you can consciously start teaching yourself to calm and re-regulate your brain waves. So we just give it a nice rest, take off all expectation that it'll be perfect, and accept that thinking is natural. You don't have to be good at meditating to start meditating. In fact, who should start meditating? People who are not yet good at it. You just start where you are. And writing fears and resentments on paper beforehand, like we just talked about, will reduce the mental chatter that's making meditation difficult. All right, the fourth thing for lifting your mood is to go outside and exercise hard if you can. Now, there was a time when I had acute PTSD, and if you've ever heard my story, there have been a couple times in my life where some really traumatic things happened in adulthood, and my sadness and the childhood PTSD symptoms were coming on strong, and I could barely work or hold a conversation. My mind was just really stressed and scattered. My body was in like full adrenal freak out several times a day, every time I passed this place near my house where I had found someone dead, actually. And every time that the adrenaline would whoosh through me and my heart would pound, my thoughts would fly back to the memory of what happened and how I did CPR for 20 minutes and couldn't save this person. This was someone I cared about. And so this PTSD reaction had been going on for months, and I happened to see a doctor, and she said, well, gosh, how many times a day are you having these freak out episodes you're telling me about? And I said, oh, not that much, maybe, 10 or 15 times, maybe 20 times a day. She was just like, oh my gosh, we're going to have to start putting you on some medication to stop that. It's really, really unhealthy for you. But I didn't want to do that. And so I told her, I'll do that, but hold on, let me go do some research and see if I can make it stop by myself. I really didn't want to take medication because something so wonderful had happened earlier when I first got my daily practice, in that never having a clear mind and always being depressed all of a sudden had come together, and I felt like my brain chemistry had finally sort of come to a good place. And so even though I was traumatized again, I was really scared of disrupting the progress that I'd made before. So I went online and I researched, what does a person do if they can't stop going into panic mode all day? And one thing suggested was go exercise hard. And it was so effective. I can't believe the doctor never mentioned this, but I figured it out for myself. Now, what does exercising hard mean? It can be different depending on what you're used to doing or what your strength level is, but you want to get your heart rate up for at least 20 minutes. If you're able to run, run. And if that's a little more than you can do, take a brisk walk for 20 minutes. If you can walk for an hour, that's good too. And when you're in the middle of a life crisis especially, try going in nature. Walk till it tires you out. If you're not able to walk, do what you can to get your body moving and your heart rate gently up for a while. If you can do that outside, even better. You probably have had the experience of how good this feels, the endorphins, the high. If you can start doing that every day, it's going to start to move your mood. Number 5 is to do any of these exercises we're talking about outside, or do anything outside. Outside is where the sun is on us, or even if it's bad weather, our brains like to know, like, what time of year is it? What time of day is it? And so being outside helps us get calibrated and feel normal in our bodies, helps us belong to the planet Earth. We feel hungry at the right time. We feel sleepy at the right time. These are some of the benefits of seeing the sun and moving around outside. Things like normal sleeping and normal eating aren't always easy for traumatized or depressed people, but this can help nudge you in the right direction. And of course, daylight's really helpful to move that depression away, to cue your brain and talk to your nervous system and coax it into normal rhythms. Also, if you're going to walk or run, it can really be nice to do it instead of on a treadmill, to do it on a natural surface like on the street and sidewalk with the up and down of the curbs, or on a dirt road where there's a slight unevenness, some pebbles, because our brains like that too. Our brains like to sense those changes in the surface and figure it out. So much of what's going on with complex PTSD, especially when we're struggling in our mood or feeling physically deadened, it's like we don't have our head together. There's dysregulation going on in the brain. This is a really normal symptom after childhood trauma that adults go through, affecting your whole nervous system and your emotions. So dysregulation makes everything harder, clunkier, but we all instinctively know how to re-regulate. It's not always easy when you're feeling stressed and sad and when you have underlying complex PTSD, but the techniques I'm teaching you will help you get re-regulated faster and stay regulated more of the time. All right. Number 6 is to do your movement in a group if you can. Movement together with other people, and I know other people are really triggering, but if you can do it together, following verbal instructions like in kickboxing, which I happen to really like, or Zumba, or something where an instructor is calling stuff out, right, left, anything where we're hearing and responding with our bodies to the left and right cues accelerates your recalibration and the re-regulation of your brain and brings you out of that PTSD fog that can be so tangled up in your depression. Crossing the center line of your body helps, and doing any of this in a group for reasons they don't totally understand magnifies the benefit, all right? Number 7 is to eat some protein with every meal. Overeating, and particularly sugar and carb addiction, are very strongly connected to childhood PTSD. A lot of breakfast foods like, toast, donuts, cereal, that kind of thing, it's pure fast carbs. And carbs will kind of take your energy and lift it up and then make you very tired. And that leads to depression too. Anything that's making your endocrine system spike and then go down, up, down, tends to be triggering for PTSD too, and for moods. So a little quick piece of advice is make sure you're eating protein with your meals, even if you're eating it with carbs. So instead of just having toast for breakfast, for example, have some eggs on toast. Add that protein to the meal. It just helps to keep it a little more balanced and less triggering for the childhood PTSD symptoms that are often driving the depression. If sweets and high carbohydrate foods tend to trigger overeating in you, you might want to take the food sensitivity quiz that I've linked in the description section below. There happens to be a very good way of eating to help with that carb sensitivity, and I follow it myself, and you can find out about it with that link. But calming that carbohydrate addiction is very powerful for calming dysregulation. That's my experience. Also with CPTSD, it's really easy to start the day with the sense of overwhelm. And the sense of overwhelm is familiar for a lot of us, and it can really scatter your focus and make you feel worse because it's hard to get anything done. So this is number 8. To get out of overwhelm and work deliberately on good, useful activities for yourself and the people around you. It can be good to make a list. For me, every morning after I meditate, I make a list of things that I'd like to get done, the most important things I'd like to get done that day. Now, I know that there is a lot of stuff on my list that I'm not going to get to today and possibly ever, but I go ahead and put them on the list. And then I try to zero in on what are the 3 most important things for me to get done that day. The 3 most important things might still be an impossible list. So in that case, I go in and I go, what's the 1 most important thing? I just get the hardest thing out of the way so that I can eliminate the sense of dread that comes with having a hard thing ahead of me during the day. Maybe it's, a phone call I'm not looking forward to making because it's embarrassing or I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings. Or maybe it's just something that's going to be really hard and take a lot of focus. I do tend to avoid that. So I just go ahead and get it out of the way. Number 9, this one is kind of special. But if you just want to get your spirits up, fight the urge to talk about anything negative. We've been conditioned, if we're feeling bad about something, to talk to as many people as possible, especially if you're a woman and people go, hey, how are you doing? And it's like, oh gosh, this thing is going on and it's so hard. And if you want to change your mood, I just encourage you to try something different and experiment with not talking about it. Don't talk about the thing that's bothering you. Keep your focus on where you're trying to go on the stuff that's positive for you. Now, I don't mean categorically never talk about what's bothering you, because sometimes it's purposeful to talk to somebody about something that's bothering you. Of course you should do that, but just generally try experimenting with not talking about the thing that's bothering you all the time and in every situation where you think of talking about it, and you'll be surprised how easy it is to have your mood start going in a completely new direction when you're not constantly reminding yourself how upset you are about something. Number 10, there's a question to ask yourself. What am I avoiding? And a lot of times, a depressed mood is really just a sense of dread about a thing you're avoiding. It could be something like you're avoiding learning about something that you know you need to know in order to work effectively. Or you're avoiding a person that you really ought to be paying attention to. You might be avoiding a task that you need to do and it's bothering you. Now, I'm sure you've noticed avoiding things can ruin all your free time while you think about doing it or not doing it. Should I do it? I didn't do it. So you can write, what am I avoiding? Make a list and see if you can find the next right action for you to take there to give yourself that good feeling of accomplishment, knowing that you're taking care of your life, not avoiding it. And finally, this is like the cherry on the sundae. If you really want to have a good day, find something kind that you can do for somebody where they won't even find out who did it for them. If they find out, you forfeit. You don't get the point. You have to find something else that day. And the reason I say that is because if there's any chance that we're going to be thought of as a great person for doing this good deed, sometimes it can sort of pollute the beneficial effects of doing a kindness for someone. You're doing this time for your own happiness. And if it helps someone else, all the better. You can call somebody who you know is having a hard time, for example. You can put your neighbor's empty trash cans back in their driveway after pickup. You can put a few quarters in someone's parking meter when you see that it's expired. If you can't afford to pay for other people's parking, you can give someone a kind word and you can just say, "You're doing a great job." Or you can compliment them and say, "You know, the way that you just explained that was so clear." Be real with them. Like, don't lie. Don't make stuff up. If it's appropriate to put a hand on their shoulder, though, when you say something like that, can make your words very powerful. The point is to pay attention to what other people have done that's deserving of a compliment and just give that to them. And when you do that, you become an agent of good, which is really what you're made for. Life feels really good when you remember this, and you remember it by acting like it, even when the motivation isn't really there at first, and you're just going through the motions. Even when you're sad, the good things you do could make a big impact on someone else who's suffering. Have you ever had somebody come back and tell you that? You know, you said this thing a couple years ago and you're thinking, I don't even remember saying that. So it's a good thing that you had good on your mind when you did it. So that counts. It counts when someone tells you that. When you encourage someone and you witness their spirits come up, your spirits can't help but come up too, all right? So those are my tips for turning your day around and having a great day, no matter what's going on. If you want more positive steps you can take to step up your healing from past trauma, here's a video I've got right here, and I will see you very soon.